And more breaking news tonight from Capitol Hill. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the radical Dems aren't expected to vote tonight on their $2 trillion China virus relief package. The House is giving Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin more time to carve out a deal. At least that's what they're saying. Our first guest tonight, holding a more than 90-minute meeting today with House Speaker Pelosi. He is one of President Trump's lead negotiators for another round of China virus relief funding negotiations. Joining us tonight is Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin. Good to have you with us, Mr. Secretary. And give us your sense of where these talks are. It's very difficult to judge because Nancy Pelosi is saying basically it's our way or it's no way at all. Your thoughts?
Well, Lou, first of all, it's always great to be with you. I did have a productive meeting with the Speaker today. As you mentioned, I was there for about an hour and a half. I went through a very detailed proposal that I had just come from the Oval Office and reviewed with Mark Meadows and the President. So all three of us were very clear in what we wanted to do. I think it was a very fair proposal that provides a lot of relief for hardworking Americans that have been hurt by this virus, particularly many of the small businesses, kids and jobs that are impacted by this.
Well, the Speaker has frustrated any effort to get that relief to those people and small businesses in particular, in addition to working men and women in this country who aren't working. What gives you such an improved outlook on the prospects as of today?
Well, this is the first time, we've seriously re-engaged in what has been several weeks. I can tell you from our standpoint, Mark Meadows and I have been very clear that the President would like to do a deal that's a fair deal and something that can help the American public right now. We're not going to do a $2.2 trillion deal. The good news is the Speaker has come down from her $3.4 trillion deal. If there's a fair compromise, we're prepared to do it.
A fair compromise, yet within that, as I understand the bill that could have been voted upon tonight, there would be no money now for law enforcement as there was in the earlier higher package that Pelosi had presented to you. That's now absent. It seems to be going, at least in a number of elements, the wrong direction. 2.2 is still vastly higher than the number that the President wants. What is there a median number here that is magical in terms of reaching agreement?
Well, the President instructed us to come up significantly, so we have come up from the $1 trillion deal that we had been working on earlier. He's very focused on wanting to make sure that all the people who have been impacted by COVID, no fault of their own, we're delivering relief. As I've said before, our job is not done until we get everybody back to work, and we're going to keep trying.
And when are your next talks scheduled?
I'll probably speak to the Speaker again tonight and to touch base. We had some issues we were following up on, and I don't think we're going to make significant progress until tomorrow at this point.
And do you care to share with us the number? If it's 2.2, is it 1.5? Would that be a reasonable median?
Lou, I've indicated it's in that neighborhood. I don't want to give the exact details, but it is in that neighborhood. But it's not just the amount of money, it's also how the money is being spent. So, we're very clear that we want to spend money on more PPP. We want to make sure that hotels, that the airlines get business. There's money for schools so that kids can go to school safely. We want more money for testing and vaccines. So there are a lot of areas where we have an agreement on. And as I said, it's not just the overall number, it's the distribution of it.
And on the issue of distribution, the President has made it very clear he wants direct payments to those who need this money most critically. Are direct payments, and are they provided for?
They are. So the good news is we have reached an agreement that if there is a deal, there are direct payments similar to last time that are in the package.
And I want to turn to the spending bill that the Senate just approved by a substantial vote. That gets us through to 11 December. This is an awkward process coming as it does just before the presidential election. This is a very delicate balance right now we're looking at to fund this government going forward, given all of the challenges, the national emergency with the China virus, the deep slowdown in this economy that is in recovery without question. Where are we headed over the next couple of months in terms of both fiscal policy and the state of the economy and its direction?
Well, the good news, as you said, we got the CR passed. It had broad bipartisan support. The last thing anybody wanted was a government shutdown right now in the middle of COVID. We funded it till after the election, and that's when we'll be having serious discussions about funding the government for next year. And I think the economy is doing a lot better. I mean, there's no question, as you see reopening, you see the economy doing a lot better. There still are certain parts of the economy that are having difficulties, and those are the things we want to support. And there's other areas of the economy that are really doing great. So I think you're going to have a very, very big quarter coming off of a closing.
All right. With that forecast, we thank you for that, and thank you for being with us.